further ado, let us begin. Regarding the R211S delivery, after going out of service on February 12th for inspection and maintenance, 100 to 104 returned to service on February 26th at 4:33 p.m. and has been in service ever since. For that 2-week period, 105 to 109 was the only R211S running in service on the island. 150 to 154 was the second production R211S consistent to service, doing so on March 7, 2025, as the 5:35 p.m. train from St. George to Great Kills. I caught it a week after it entered service, doing so on March 14th, and it still smelled quite fresh and new. 145 to 149 after burn-in testing on March 14th, entered service on March 21st on a night run to Tottenville. R211S's 135 to 139 were seen testing at Kawasaki's Yonkers facility on February 15th and were delivered to the Clifton shops as of March 19th, until it entered service on April 4th. Meanwhile, 140 to 144 was delivered to the Clifton shops between April 1st and April 3rd and was activated the next day, April 4th. It began burn-in testing on April 11th, was equipped with flags on April 17th, and entered service on April 24th on a trip to Great Kills. This marked the very first time that the production R211Ss began receiving flags, since before then they were allowed to enter service and operate without them, and they look much better without them in my opinion. But if you are going to add flags to them, at least make them vertical. 105 to 109, which was the first R211S to enter service without flags, and one of only 4 R211S consists to do so, received the flags on April 24th. 155 to 159 were delivered to the Clifton shops between April 16th and 17th, and were immediately given the flags the next day. The consist entered service on May 5th. 130 to 132 arrived on May 2nd, while 133 to 134 arrived on April 29th. 130 to 134 burn-in tested on May 16th and May 20th and entered service on May 27th, being the most recent consistent enter service. 121 to 124 were delivered between May 12th and 13th, while 120 was delivered on May 20th. The cars were immediately equipped with flags upon arrival. The consist entered service on June 9th at 5:48 p.m. 160 to 164 was delivered to Clifton between May 29th and 31st, and is the most recent consist to arrive. The turnaround time from delivery to service has become impeccable, only taking about 2 weeks now. Most of the burn-in testing takes place during nights and middays. I love how the consist did begin to enter service without any decals, just like the R44s didn't have any flag decals between cars. That decision preserved the nice, fresh, and futuristic look of these cars. These consists entered service in the order that they were delivered. The R211Ss are already taking over the island quite effectively, to the point where several of them could be present at a time at St. George, as of April 10th and beyond. So 2025 will definitely be the year of the R211S. To recap, Staten Island has 50 out of 75, or 2/3 of its required R211S cars. 100 to 109, 120 to 124, and 130 to 164, with 40 cars or 8 out of the 15 required trains being in service. Nearly half of the required R211Ss are now in service. Kawasaki is not going in numerical order, they're just delivering whatever's ready at the moment. These cars are already rapidly transforming the island. However, I don't like the fact that y'all are putting the flags on them before they get to burn in. Let us see the bare body, come on, man! Regarding the remaining R211S cars, 25 cars, 110 to 119, 125 to 129, and 165 to 174 remain to be delivered. 125 to 129 have begun testing at Yonkers as of May 11th, while 110 to 119 were sent back to Lincoln, Nebraska due to electrical issues. 165 to 169 is at Yonkers, while 170 to 174 are at Lincoln, Nebraska. In addition to the several formerly retired R44 cars, several new R44s were sidelined at St. George, sent to Clifton's furthest track, and then shipped off of MTA property to Sims Metal Management. Among these were R44s 395, 407, and 417, which were retired through March and April. 432 was also retired. 12 Staten Island Railway R44 cars listed here have been retired in total. 442, 444, and 446 are out of service. leaving 47 R44 cars or 11 trains and some spare cars active, listed here. As many of you have noticed, there have been less and less R44s left with physical roll signs. R44 414 was the last unit to have a roll sign, which was recently replaced with the Staten Island Railway logo as of June 5th, 2025. 460, 434, 418, and 412 also received MTA logos over where their roll signs used to be, although many of these did not have roll signs anymore. 410, 438, and 450 have received American flag decals over their roll signs. Only 4 R44s are required for service at any given time on a weekday, while they are no longer necessary for weekend operations. In terms of R211As, during my last update, 25 base order R211As remained to be delivered, those being 4445 to 4469. Now, as of May 22, 2025, all base order R211As have been delivered to MTA property. Congratulations, Kawasaki. This delivery lasted from July 2021 till May 22, 2025. 4060 to 4499, 440 cars. The last consist to arrive was 4445 to 4449, which arrived between May 21st and 22nd. The last 3 cars to arrive were 4445 to 4447. It was allegedly delivered previously, but had to be sent back to Kawasaki. I'll explain soon. If February and some of March were the time for 4400 series R211A deliveries, March was the era of burn-in testers, and April was the time to see Kawasaki's hard work pay off in the form of these R211As entering service. So to recap, because the order of 4400s being delivered and entering service has been a bit strange and out of order, here's the order of how things happened. 4395 to 4404 entered service on the A on December 31st, 2024 as consists 34. 4470 to 79 entered service on the C on January 16th, 2025 as consists 35. 4405 to 4414 entered service on the A on January 24th as consists 36. 4335 to 39 and 4485 to 89 entered service on the A on February 12th as consists 37. These 4 consists had entered service throughout late 2024 and early 2025. In addition to these trains, some other Blue Wonders were introduced to the system. 4415 to 4419 and 4480 to 84 entered service on the C on February 28, 2025 as the 38th consist. 4425 to 34 burn-in tested on the A between March 6th and 7th, then entered service on the A on March 15th, becoming the 39th R211A consist to enter service. 4435 to 39 and 4490 to 94 was spotted burn-in testing on March 11th and entered service on March 20th on the A, becoming the 40th consist to enter service. 4420 to 24 and 4495 to 99 began burn-in testing on the A between March 11th and 13th, then entered service on March 25th, becoming the 41st R211A to enter service. Now here's where things get a bit messy. 3400 to 3404 and 4440 to 4444, a mixed base option order unit and the first of its kind, entered service on the A on March 27, 2025, becoming the 42nd R211A to enter service. Immediately afterward, the secondary mixed base option order consist 3405 to 3409 and 4450 to 4454 entered service on the A on March 28th, becoming the 43rd R211A to enter service, featuring the second option order consist to enter service. So in the span of 2 days, we went from having only base order R211As in service to having 2 option order R211A sets actively roaming through the system via 8th Avenue and Fulton, linked up with base order consists. Full base consists 4455 to 4464, began burn-in testing on the A between March 31st and April 1st, was seen deadheading with its decals installed on April 14th, and entered service on April 18th on the C, as the 44th R211A consist to enter service. 4465 to 69 was linked up with an option order set 3410 to 14 on April 10th. The new consist began burn-in testing between April 11th and 13th, and entered service on April 22nd on the A, and April 24th on the C. Being the 45th and most recent R211A consist to enter service, this is the second to last mixed base option order train we can ever expect to see, with the second to last base order train enter service. Here's a more descriptive set-by-set detail of events. I will strictly cover base order stuff first, then I'll cover the mixed base and option order stuff afterward to avoid confusion. 4425 to 4429, tested on West End on February 18th, then via Brighton on March 2nd, while 4430 to 34 tested on West End between March 4th and 5th. 4425 to 29 and 30 to 34 were then linked up and sent to Pitkin Yard. They burn-in tested on the A between March 6th and 7th and became the 39th R211A consistent to service, doing so on March 15th on the A line. 4435 to 39 began testing on West End on February 25th, while 4490 to 94 tested on West End on February 24th and 28th. They then linked up and were spotted burn-in testing together on March 11th. Finally, they entered service on March 20th on the A, becoming the 40th R211A consistent to service. As you are beginning to notice, there was a shift from testing on Brighton to testing on West End. 4420 to 24 began testing on West End between February 17th and 18th, as well as on March 6th, while 4495 to 99 tested on West End on February 21st and March 8th. The two sets linked up sometime after March 8th, were sent to Pitkin and were seen burn-in testing together between March 11th and 13th. Then they entered service on the A on March 25th as Consist 41. A total of 10 cars were delivered to South Brooklyn during the week of February 9th, those being 4435 to 44. 4435 to 39 were already discussed, but 4440 to 4444 will be discussed in the option order section. 4445 to 49 was allegedly delivered to 207th Street Yard between February 27th and 28th, but it had to be sent back. Because it was unable to move under its own power, and because issues had been found by Kawasaki before delivery, it was sent back to Lincoln, Nebraska, Track 6 for repairs. Some of its other issues included not having cab components like a functioning master controller or reverser, having a defective cab window, and experiencing an electrical fault. Once these issues were resolved, it was shipped to the South Brooklyn Railway between May 21st and May 22nd. It was transferred to Pitkin on May 29th and was linked up with an unknown consist on the morning of June 5th for testing in the Rockaways. 4450 to 54 were delivered to South Brooklyn between March 3rd and 4th, tested on West End on March 14th. 4455 to 59 were delivered to South Brooklyn between March 6th and 7th, while 4460 to 64 were delivered there between March 19th and 20th. They tested on West End on March 27th, then got linked up with 4455 to 59, and the 10-car consist was sent to Pitkin Yard the very next day to begin his burn-in test on the A between March 31st and April 1st. 4455 to 64 was then seen deadheading downtown with his decals installed on April 14th, and then entered service on April 18th on the C as Consist 44. 4465 to 69 were delivered to South Brooklyn between March 26th and 27th. Kawasaki and the MTA are not messing around at all. They are trying to make up for lost time as much as they possibly can. These 4400s were delivered straight from Lincoln, Nebraska to New York City. And although 4485 to 89 and 4495 to 99 came from Yonkers, they were still delivered to the South Brooklyn Railway, while the rest were delivered to 207th Street Yard. Between March 11th and March 24th, the MTA was testing so many R211As at the same time that I nearly joked it was illegal. Like, we literally had 3 burn-in testers on the A as of March 11th, and 4 trains simultaneously either burning in or getting ready to enter service as of March 19th, including some options. Between March 27th and May 21st, 2025, 5 base order R211As, 4445 to 4449, remain to be delivered to MTA property, but now the base order is complete. The most hyped up option order R211A set so far, 3400 to 3404, transferred from Pitkin Yard storage to Coney Island on March 7th and began burn-in testing on the West End between March 10th and 11th, displaying a beeline code break on the latter day. 4440 to 44 began testing on Brighton on March 9th, displaying various code breaks also. Then on the evening of March 14th, the two sets were linked together, becoming a mixed-base option consist. It then conducted a burn-in test on a fully expressed beeline run between March 14th and 16th. The beeline! This may have thrown some people off and even led some to believe that the first options along with some of the base would either be heading to Concourse or Coney Island. That would have been really exciting. However, it was just for show, giving the Option Order 1 cars a warm welcome to the city. Later, the Consist began burn-in testing on the A between March 19th and 20th, and entered service on March 27th on the A. The first time it ran on the C was on April 1st. By April 9th, 3400 to 3404 was already given a new mate, that being 4285 to 89, while 4440 to 44 went with 4225 to 29. 340509 was delivered to South Brooklyn Railway between February 24th and 25th, marking the first option order Consist to arrive in this manner. It was linked up with 4450 to 54 after they both finished testing on West End. They were sent from Coney Island to Pitkin via Culver and Fulton as a full 10-car train on March 17th. The Consist burn-in tested between March 18th and March 24th, and then entered service on March 28th on the A line, before briefly switching to the C between April 2nd and 3rd. These trains signify our first two option order Consist to enter service, and reminded us that the base order's entry into service was quickly coming to an end. By April 11, 3400 to 3404 and 3405 to 3409 were placed into a single Consist, which meant that there was one option order train running as a full set, while every other R211A was a base order. This was the case at least until April 22nd. 4465 to 69 tested on West End on April 3rd signed up as a D, then was transferred to Pitkin on April 7th. 3410 to 14 were delivered to 207th Street Yard between March 25th and March 27th. They were later sent to Coney Island Yard and tested on West End on April 4th and 10th. Then they were transferred to Pitkin on the same day. On that day, April 10th that is, 4465 to 69 were linked up with 3410 to 14, and they began burn-in testing on the A line from April 10th to 14th. They then entered service on April 22nd on the A, being the 45th R211A to enter service, and the third mixed base option order set to enter service, as well as the penultimate. I say penultimate because we will likely see 4445 to 49 with a 3400 or 3500 series R211A, but from this point going forward, we will see mostly full-blooded option order sets entering service. 3415 to 3419 were delivered to 207th Street Yard between April 22nd and 23rd, were moved to Coney Island on April 28th, tested on West End on May 19th, then did burn-in testing with 3520 to 24 on the B and G lines between May 20th and 27th. May 20th marked the first time that an R211A had burn-in tested on the G, which signaled the fact that Pitkin Yard was done with R211A deliveries, and that the MTA was now turning the delivery process to other yards. It was highly efficient to test R211As on the G, since Crosstown is not as used as other trunk lines, has a direct link to Coney Island Yard, and you're able to test two trains for the price of one, since the G uses 300-foot trains rather than 600-foot trains. Anyways, 3415 to 19 entered service on May 31st, 2025 on the G, being the first R211A to enter service on a line other than the A and C, as well as the first R211 to enter service on the G in general, joining 4 R211Ts already running on the line. This confirmed that the G line was now officially reassigned to Coney Island Yard, and that many Option Order 1 R211As will be delivered to Coney Island, for service on the B, G, N, Q, and W, and for direct replacement of the R46s there, which means that Jamaica Yard's fleet will be left alone for now, and that Jamaica Yard has received a mild fleet expansion of about 6 to 7 trains for the E, F, and R lines, because Jamaica will not be giving its R160s back to the G. The new fleet will be the R211s, out of Coney Island Yard. 3420 to 24 wasn't delivered yet. 3425 to 29 was delivered as of May 23rd, tested in the Rockaways as of May 30th, were linked up with 3535 to 39, and together they burn-in tested on the G and N lines as a 10-car consists on June 2nd, 4th, and 5th respectively. June 5th marked the first time that a 10-car R211A burn-in tested on the N line with the intention of entering service. Very exciting and unexpected move. 3430 to 34 were delivered to 207th Street Yard between May 27th and 29th. 3435 to 3439 are currently in the process of delivery, with 3438 to 39 having arrived to 207th Street Yard as of June 10th. Option Order R211As 3500 to 3549 were all delivered to the South Brooklyn Railway between April 2nd and June 5th, 2025. The first one to come in was 3500 to 3504, which arrived between April 2nd and 3rd. This consist did some tests on West End on April 11th and April 22nd, 3505-09 arrived between April 8th and April 9th and tested on Weston on April 15th. These two sets were linked together on April 25th, sent to Pitkin, and got straight to burn-in testing on the A on the same night. 3500 to 3509 entered service on the A line on May 15, 2025, becoming the 46th consistent enter service, rekindling the era of the 3500s in the MTA, and making Night Eagle a very happy man. 3510 to 14 were delivered to South Brooklyn between April 16th and 17th, and have tested on Weston on April 25th. Meanwhile, 3515 to 19 arrived to South Brooklyn between April 22nd and 23rd, and were brought to Coney Island via Weston on the early morning of April 25th with Tribute R77-884. They were linked together on May 7th, burn-in tested on the B late at night, then burn-in tested on the A between May 8th and May 12th. Then they entered service on the A line on May 20th, being the first R211A consistent enter service after the Rockaway shutdown was complete, becoming the 47th and final consistent enter service out of Pitkin. How poetic. So 3510 to 3519 capped off an era. It's done. No more R211As to Pitkin. All the R46s have been shifted off of the A and C. That's for another subway update. All that's left are a few remnants on the Rockaway Park shuttle, which will likely remain until the summer is done. I will touch on the R46 situation briefly, although this is not the retirements video. The last R46A train to run in service during the Rockaway shutdown was 5990-92 with 6122-24 on April 17, 2025. Both R46 pairs were transferred to Coney Island 2 weeks later. That ended the R46A train era from April 17, 2025, all the way to May 19th. The last R46C train to ever run took place a day before, on April 16, 2025, with 5884 to 5882 and 5992 to 5990 on a trip to Euclid Avenue. This R46C train run occurred early in the morning, around 9 a.m. 5990 to 92, of course, was paired off with 6122 to 24, and they served the last A-train run to Howard Beach, around 6 p.m. or so. Around the time that the Rockaway shutdown was taking place, the ANC had about 80 R46 cars or 10 trains in rotation. Once the Rockaways were reintegrated with the rest of the A-line, the R46A train literally lasted for 4 days, from May 19th to May 22nd. They used 6174 to 76 with 6014 to 16, and 6026 to 28 with 5906 to 08. Basically 2 R46s. We could practically say that the two 3500 series consists which entered service on the A killed off those R46s, and we wouldn't be wrong about that, because those were consist number 46 and 47. These 3500s not only killed off the R46s out of Pitkin Yard, they also helped move the remaining R211Ts to the G, to help expand the influence of the next generation train fleet. So now Pitkin has 47 R211As and 12 R179s, because they're still loaning one R179 to the F as of my recording this. The last R46A train to ever run was on May 22nd, 2025, 6026 to 28 with 5906 to 08 on a trip to Lefferts Boulevard on May 22nd. It terminated at 4:17 p.m., ending the R46 era out of Pitkin for good, as well as the 75-foot era and the SME era. The R46s at Pitkin lasted from 2009 to 2025. Although this is not a retirement video, I mention that because the R46s at Pitkin were directly tied into the fate of the R211As. I am proud to say that I caught the second to last trip of that R46 ever. Sadly, I couldn't be on the last trip because I did have to bounce. I wanted to see 4445 to 4449 arrive, which I did. That was a rainy day, by the way. So 3500 to 3519 are really the goats of Pitkin, and probably the most important R211As that Pitkin has received. They basically sealed the deal. Now 3500 to 09 was treated with utmost disrespect, separated almost immediately after entering service. However, 3510 to 19 is still together as of the making of this video. 3520 to 24 were delivered to South Brooklyn between April 30th and May 1st. Tested on Weston between May 12th and 13th, then joined 3415 to 19 as formerly mentioned. It was the second 5-car R211A to enter service on the G line, doing so on June 1st, bringing the G's R211 total to 6 trains. 3525 to 29 were delivered to South Brooklyn between May 5th and 6th, tested on Weston on May 20th, while 3530 to 34 were delivered to South Brooklyn on May 13th at the staging area, tested in the Rockaways on May 22nd, traveled back and forth with 3535 to 39 for a couple days, then 3525 to 29 linked up with 3530 to 34, and burned and tested on the G for 1 day only, that being May 28th. 3535 to 39 were delivered to South Brooklyn as of May 15th. They tested in the Rockaways on May 23rd. 3540 to 44 were delivered to South Brooklyn between June 2nd and 3rd, while directly afterward 3545 to 49 were delivered to South Brooklyn between June 4th and 5th. So currently, we have 84 Option Order 1 R211A cars on MTA property, those being 3400 to 3419, 3425 to 3434, 3438 to 39, and 3500 to 3549, along with 3553 to 54. We have 32 3400s and 52 3500s. All of the 3400s have arrived to 207th Street Yard with the exception of 3405 to 09, while all 3500s have arrived via South Brooklyn Railway. We're staying on pace and receiving about 10 cars per week, which is highly efficient. If you count the R211Ss, sometimes we're receiving up to 15 new cars per week. 3435 to 39 and some 3450 series units are all at Yonkers. I would imagine that some 3440s are probably there too by now. It seems that the way they're going to do this is they're going to send the 3400s from Lincoln, Nebraska to Yonkers and then to 207th, while sending the 3500s straight from Lincoln, Nebraska to South Brooklyn in order to expedite the Option Order R211A delivery. That way, instead of delivering like 100 cars via one method, you could deliver 200 cars using two methods. It's more expedient. Let me discuss my experience with the options so far. Initially, 3400 to 09's quick nature nearly put a bad taste in my mouth for the option order, and the damn thing just began, trolling my ass with elusivity and unpredictability, and me just not being in the right place at the right time. At least I got to see them at Pitkin before they had entered service. Looking helplessly at them through the gates, I was kicking shit all day, mad that I had missed both sets burning in. This experience helped me understand that I should only focus on perfecting the present and the future. And you're probably wondering why this video took so long to release. I had to come to terms with my feelings towards the orange asshole who currently occupies the Oval Office, and now that I've rectified and mitigated my feelings, I can now return to work on these updates. Thankfully, this feeling of frustration simmered down as April progressed. Right after I saw 3500 to 04 chilling at South Brooklyn, I caught the mixed base option order consists 4444 with 3404 for the first time on the C line on April 3rd. I then caught 4450 and 3409 on the A on April 7th, which happened to be the train right behind the one I took to Penn Station. I caught the full option order set on April 18th without even trying, but the conductor was quick and the train was packed, so I wasn't able to get too many pictures of it. What I did get, I hope you guys enjoy. It's quite strange seeing 3400 series R211As just blend into Pitkin Yard's fleet so easily, but I welcome it. It is very strange seeing them on the A, but it kind of makes sense seeing them on the C, I guess because the R32s in the 3400 series range were on the C for so long. And when the 3400 series R32s ran on the A, it was kind of like an exclusivity. Am I disappointed that the option order R211As don't have any ads whatsoever? A little bit. I mean, we've kind of gotten a downgrade from the days of 4070 to 4209 entering service with ads, and then 4210 to 4499 entering service with partial ads. Like, it is a downgrade, but I'm not too mad about it. Now, if you ask Zach Transit, he is mad. I guess this puts 4070 to 4209 in a class all by themselves, although they are the dirtiest R211As in the fleet. I caught 3410 to 14 burning in with 4465 to 69 at 80th Street on April 11th. Then saw it running in service on the A line on the same day I caught 3530 to 34, deadheading from the Rockaways after finishing some tests out there. I caught 3415 to 19 and 3520 to 24, running on the G on June 3rd, as separate sets of course. This is when they were already in service. Looking brand new, nice and shiny, with decals that were not messed up, unlike Pitkin Yard R211As. I caught 3540 to 44 at South Brooklyn on the same day, which was the second option order set I got to catch during the delivery phase, as the option order units begin to take hold in the city. Seeing the R211As enter service on the G led me to believe that the plan is to fill the ranks on that line first and kick the R46s off of the G line, fully replacing them with R211s. That may still be the plan. Ironic how far the G line has come, from using R160s in December 2024 to R68s through January and February 2025 to R46s from February 2025 to the present, to having R211Ts now in the mix as of March 2025, and now R211As burning in and entering service on the route, giving us the rare chance to see 10-car trains running along the G. It's like the G had to be broken down and built back up, going back to its roots in the process. I love it. This is the proper treatment the line deserved. I'd still love to see it become full length one day. That's what she said. We now have 574 R211s on property and 545 R211 cars in service, 435 base order R211A cars, 45 option order R211A cars, 45 R211S cars, and 20 R211T cars on the G, with 5 base, 35 option, and 5 R211S cars awaiting to enter service. Here's where things got exciting. After 3510-19 entered service on the A line on May 20th, Pitkin Yard reached a critical mass, where too many R211As had been delivered to Pitkin, which forced the option order units to be assigned to Coney Island Yard, which is quite ironic and convenient. Since the R211As were able to be transferred directly to Coney Island and test on BMT trackage for so long, it was only proper for them to enter service out of the yard in which they spent so much time at. A lot of interesting deliveries and fleet swaps will take place in the near future. Okay, regarding the R211T situation on the G line, due to a decision made by the MTA in December 2024, two 5-car R211T softshell trains, 4050-54 and 4055-59, were shifted to the G line in early March 2025. This gave riders about a 15% chance of encountering a fully walkable G train. 4055-4059 was the first R211T to debut on the G line, conducting its inaugural run on the G line on March 4th, while 4050-4054 followed it a couple days later on March 6th. These were two softshell R211Ts. R211Ts 4050-4059 were sent to Coney Island Yard on February 28th. Their last time running on the C line was on February 27th, being present in mixed soft hard shell R211 consists. So they were basically with their 4040s matches, almost the same way that they were when they first entered service. So we had two R211Ts on the G between March and April. Then we had 4040-4049 being the only accordion C train holding it down between March and April. Its last time running on the C line was on April 11, 2025. After being used as school cars from April 14th to May 21st, 2025, R211T hardshell cars 4040-4049 were shifted to Coney Island Yard to add more articulated G trains to the fleet and to prepare the line for eventual R211 conversion. The R211Ts currently make up 2/3 of the G's new tech fleet. 4040-4044 debuted on the G on May 23rd, while 4045-4049 debuted on the G on May 28th. I commonly encounter 4045-4049, and it's not hard to tell that these trains came straight out of Pitkin, because they still look frickin' dirty. They received none of the glitzy treatment which 4050-4059 received to make the MTA riders think that Pitkin Yard actually cares about their trains, or that the MTA cares about their trains in general. And I hear these napkins lying, talking about, oh, congestion pricing is funding new trains. None of the R211 orders were funded by congestion pricing. Not the base, not option 1, not option 2. What will likely happen is the R262s and R268s will be funded by congestion pricing, but not the 211s. Don't let anyone deceive you. It is definitely nice seeing the G line use new equipment, as well as seeing the R211As and Ts run in regular service on a line other than the A and C. The R211Ts low-key kind of prepared the G to move back into its new tech role, and their presence essentially allowed for a seamless transition to option order 1 R211A usage on Coney Island Yard routes such as the G. It also helped reintegrate the G with Coney Island Yard, because as we know, between late 2021 and early 2025, the G was property of Jamaica, full-blown, full stop. But then when the R160s had to get repaired, the G got loans from Coney Island. But then they just said, screw it, let's make the G a Coney Island route again. with it using Coney Island trains such as the R68s, then shifting to the R46s, and then having the R211Ts, which were assigned to Coney Island, and now having the option order 1 R211As, which seems in perfectly with the R46 replacement and the assignment of option order 1 R211As to Coney Island. We now know that they will be going to Coney Island. No more speculation. Hooray! That's why I like waiting for the facts. Thank you for tuning in to this particular section of Next Stop News. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, stay blessed, stay healthy, stay hype, and thank you for riding with Next Stop News.